Hello friend, I hope this finds you well. My name's Chris THRALL. I'm a former Royal Marines Commando and I fought my way back from chronic trauma and addiction to live, work and travel in 80 countries across all 7 continents, achieving all of my dreams and goals along the way. Now I pass my simple system on to other people, but I can only help you if you like and subscribe. So please do so, because you get one life, and if you live it right, one is enough. Stapes, how are you, brother?
I'm all right, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's been brilliant. I'm catching up with all these brothers that I've never met, and can't argue with that, can you?
Yeah, I just saw your podcast with Josh Pelland earlier, but I've not had a chance to watch it yet. But I'm going to get into that one later.
He's a lovely man, you know.
Certainly is, mate. Yeah.
Really lovely, and he's kind of epitomises that kind of elite special forces thing, because you know a lot of them are just really nice guys that just want to be professional soldiers, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. I mean, well, Josh's story is pretty compelling, really, isn't it? You know, coming from abroad, from Canada, and then all the stuff he did, and then what he's gone through recently. But I'm looking forward to catching up on that episode. Yeah.
Yeah, I found it really quite upsetting, really.
Yeah.
Because he's just so nice, and the way he talks about his accident.
Yeah.
Like there's not even the slightest bit of feeling sorry for himself. No. Nothing like that. And in a way, that's upsetting, because it's like fucking hell, you've been. Oh. But you know, you've been through something like that. You're allowed to be a bit up, you know, you're allowed to feel sorry for yourself a little bit, but it's just, he's
yeah, I think he's got a strong mindset on that kind of thing, because I suppose feeling sorry for himself wouldn't help him in any way, I suppose, and I think he realises that, and he just seems to be just pushing through it and looking for the opportunity.
Yeah, you're a very humble man. So you've had a fascinating life. Just a quick expose for our listeners and watchers. Former Royal Marines Commando, served with the SFSG, so the Special Forces Support Group, been in Afghanistan, and now you seem to have won every single martial arts title there is going. Is it mixed martial arts?
Yeah, mixed martial arts, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've won a few. There's a few left to still win. But, yeah, it's going all right.
Yeah, my God. So do you want to just run us through what disciplines you fight in, and what kind of belts or what competitions you've entered and won?
Yeah, I mean, so I only, at the moment, I'm competing in mixed martial arts. Obviously, for those that don't follow mixed martial arts, it's a combination of all the effective martial arts. So someone that's going to compete professionally in mixed martial arts, you've got to be doing boxing, Thai boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. It's quite a busy schedule to keep. I've been fighting professionally for about 13 years now, so you know I've had quite a few fights and fought in quite a few different countries and places, and I've had a lot of great experiences through mixed martial arts. I've got nothing to complain about. I've loved every minute of it. It's been a great experience for me.
How did you get into it before you joined the Royal Marines, or?
Well, I was training before I joined the Marines. I was doing like boxing and Thai boxing. I'd never done any grappling or anything like that. And I wasn't like a good boxer or a good Thai boxer. I just trained, you know. I had a couple of fights, but just trained. I really got into it while I was in the Marines. Me and a friend of mine called Cy Stroud, we just started watching videos, DVDs of the UFC and stuff. And we got some mats on. I think the first time we were on Galahad. Remember Galahad, the little ship? I think we were on the way back from Senegal or Norway or somewhere. We bought some mats. Well, we found some mats and just took them on the flight deck. Started practicing arm bars on each other and stuff, and that's where it started. Yeah, got back to England, found a gym, started training, and that's the story, really.
So, Stapes, can you just tell us the thing about the ears? Because I watched that. Was it called Gladiator? That series about mixed martial arts. Did you see it? It was set in.
No.
It was set in Los Angeles. It was a really good. I don't know what network it was on because let's just say I got hold of the series somehow, and it was about these hardcore MMA fighters that all worked out of this gym, and it was just the real McCoy about the fighting, the losing the weight. Lots of it was about drugs. I don't know if that's was just put in there for the program of whether that's a Los Angeles kind of or a California sort of thing. It was a really good series, but they all had the
collies.
Yeah, the cauliflower ears. Is that from the wrestling? Is it?
It's a fashion statement. You get given one on your birthday.
You get what? Sorry.
You get given one on your birthday. Yeah, it's mainly from the wrestling. It's just friction where you've took a lot of bangs on your ear and the cartilage splits, and then it will bleed into the space, and then obviously it causes like a tumour inside your ear. It doesn't really affect me in any way apart from it hurts when I sleep. So, is
it like a sort of badge of honour in the fight game to show that you've had loads of fights, or?
I mean, I suppose people who maybe don't train or have just started out would see it that way. I think people like myself and people who've been around the sport for years and stuff, it's just a everyday thing for us. Like, but yeah, you know, you see someone with big daft cauliflower ears, you know they can do a bit of grappling usually, or they're a rugby player.
Yeah. So let's go back to let's go back to your time in the Corps then. Why did you join up?
I think I'd have to go back before that, really. I'd have to go back to school.
Yeah.
When I was at school, I was not interested in the slightest in anything at school. You know, you couldn't get me to do any homework. You couldn't get me to take a pencil case to school. I went to school with a bag, and if it was PE day, I'd have PE kit in it. If it wasn't PE day, I'd have nothing in it. I wouldn't take I had no school books, no pens, nothing. Not because I wasn't giving them. I was giving them. I just wasn't interested. I just wouldn't do schoolwork. I always felt like I was going to do something else in my life, something that didn't include academia or include any of the stuff I was learning at school. Now, before I move on, I don't want to say that that's the right attitude to have, because that's clearly not what I want my children to have. I want them to work hard at school and get an education. But I just wasn't like that. I just couldn't get into school. I couldn't get into. I'm still like that now. If I don't enjoy something, I can't do it. I can't spend 10 seconds on it. So going through school, I had no interest whatsoever. And you know, when you do them school fair days where people are asking you, what do you want to do when you leave school and this, I just had no answers because I just wasn't interested in them kind of things. I was just always looking for something that was challenging and something that would kind of make me a better person or teach me something as a person. And then just as I was leaving school, one of my best friends, Matthew Williams, he came to me and he was like, have you seen these guys, the Marines? And he started showing me videos and stuff of all the training that the Marines did. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. That is what I'm doing. And that was it, really. That was literally it. It was on. My dad was always in the army. He was in the army. He went to Northern Ireland and stuff before I was born. And when I was a kid, he was in the Territorial Army. So I always had that military background through the family. And then, yeah, when Matty showed me the videos and stuff, I was just like, yeah, I'm joining the Marines, man. Them guys look badass, you know. So that was it.
Did you have a stable childhood, or did you have, you know, was it up and down?
No, I had a very stable childhood. My parents were both excellent parents, very close friends and parents to me now. They did split up when I was a teenager, but it didn't have any effect on me or anything like that. It was, I had a great childhood. Can't complain. Yeah, I had a great childhood. Obviously, we didn't have a lot of money or anything like that, but you know, who cares? My mum and dad, amazing people, taught me some great stuff through my childhood. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to make see if there's any connection here. After you left the forces, did you suffer at all? Any trauma? Any upheaval adapting to Civvy Street?
No, I think I was quite lucky, to be honest, because, well, maybe lucky is not the right word, but as I was leaving the Marines, I was already setting up the gym. So I didn't leave and have a bit of downtime or space where I was kind of, and I think that is the problem sometimes when people have strugglers, because they leave without anything planned forward for them, and then they get out of the military and then they're sat there thinking, right, what do I do now? What do I do next? They try and find a purpose. I was quite lucky that I already had my purpose before I left the military. So when I left, it was kind of like my feet didn't hit the ground. They still haven't hit the ground. I've been out nearly 8 years. I feel like I'm still in, because I just have, we haven't stopped. This lockdown's the longest I've ever had off work, you know, since I left the Corps. So yeah, no, I've never really struggled with anything. Transitioning to Civvy Street, I have had my frustrations with it, because obviously it's not like the military. You know, in the military, there's a lot of schedule, there's a lot of routine. In the Royal Marines particularly, and you'll know this, you can ask someone to do a job, you don't speak to them for 2 weeks, you go back, you know that job has been done to 100% of that guy's ability, and it's going to be done, you know, to a standard that you've been asked for. And it's not quite the same once you leave. And that's not like a knock on anyone. It's just that people have got different priorities, or people have got different things going on in their life, or they're ready to spend a different amount of energy on certain projects. Whereas in the Marines, it's like everyone's go, 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 you know. So there's not that's the only kind of thing that I struggled with, and that was my problem rather than anyone else's problem. That's my problem of adjusting to Civilian Street and maybe slowing the pace down a touch. Yeah.
There's two things, mate, that really, you know, I wish were a bit different, and they are definitely modern things, like they've happened in the last sort of 10 years. One of them is people that just don't reply to emails, right? It's normally professionals, normally celebrity sort of types who've got this, you know, for inquiries, use this email. And obviously they're busy. Well, I get that. But if you're giving someone the option to email you, you reply. It doesn't matter who they are, if they're some, you know, 16-year-old fan that's written to you, or whether it's a professional person like me who wants to engage because I want to come on your podcast or something. Like, have the decency to, you know, pay somebody to, you know, you got people like, I'm not going to mention any names, but some of the top podcasters in the world just don't reply to their emails. And it's,
right.
That's one thing that bugs me. But the other thing is, it's this not saying sorry when you've made a mistake. Rather than say sorry, you've just blamed someone else, and it seems to be everywhere now. I don't remember that in the military. It's like if you screwed up, you had to own it and hold your hand up. There were a couple of instances where people didn't do that, and things got a bit, you know, not pleasant, can we say? But this modern thing about, you know, you screw up in your job,
not taking
your hand up. You don't hold your hand up and say, "Look, I'm really sorry." You blame someone else. It's just, God.
Yeah. I mean, on those two particular things that you've mentioned there, I mean, the email one is quite interesting. Me personally, I try to hide all my email addresses because I don't use email, so I try not to give people the option to email me. I'm just a technophobe in that way. I'd rather, if people message me on Instagram or whatever, I'll try and get back to them as fast as I can. I'll always get back to everyone who sends me messages on Instagram or Facebook. It'll take a couple of days usually, because otherwise, you know, I'll only go on my inboxes every couple of days. I like to try and live my life in the present, so I'll only really go through my inboxes once or twice a week. The thing you were saying about like having ownership of what you're doing is, or mistakes you made, is a massive one for me. I mean, anything you do, you should be trying your best. Yeah, if you say to someone you're going to take on a task or do a job, whatever it is, in my opinion, when you take that on and you take you say, yeah, I'm going to do that, you're now accountable for getting that done. And you should be accountable for getting it done to the best of your ability. But we all make mistakes, don't we? And like you said, when people are not taking ownership of their mistakes, that's when problems occur. Everyone makes a mistake, mate. And you know, if you sit back and you say, sorry, I made a mess up, all good. That's one of the things that is kind of pushed in the Marines from day one, isn't it? It's like, we never say to the recruits they have to be the best or they have to get everything right. But we do say to them, you have to put 100% effort in at all times, because that's all at the end of the day we can ask for.
Yeah. You saw my post, didn't you, about the bodybuilding?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Jesus Christ, the size here.
Yeah, I was pretty huge back in my younger days. Yeah, I'm just Dave Radband, you know, the para who was also in the Special Forces support group. Yeah, he's very open and honest about his life, particularly on Instagram. And I just took a note. It's not that I'm not honest. It's just I've never really known what to put on Instagram, because it's only starting to become my thing because of the podcast, right? And when I saw that actually you can get some real good engagement with people by just being honest about yourself and your story and stuff. And I wanted people to know, you know, you don't need to take steroids to feel good about yourself. In fact, it actually has the complete opposite effect in from my experience. I can't talk about other people, although I've got a good sort of idea of it. But you've never been down that route as a fighter. Is that big in the fight game?
I don't know if it's big or not. I mean, people say it is. I don't really know in the UK. I mean, look, I've trained at a lot of gyms. You know, I've trained, and I've been like, I've had 3 gyms that I've trained at non-stop. You know, I've been part of the teams and that. And I can't say I've really ever known about it in any of them situations. People taking steroids or performance enhancing drugs or whatever. I mean, of course there is, and there will be in around the UK and Europe scene. The thing is, to go off on a little tangent about the sport of MMA in particular, the UFC tests quite heavily for it now. So if you're in the UFC, you're not gonna, you can't take any performance enhancing drugs now, unless maybe there's some guys out there who've got doctors that know how to navigate the way through and pass the tests. I've got no idea, but I'm sure there will be those people. But my point is, if you're a UK MMA fighter or any MMA fighter and you want to get to the UFC, you want to get to the best level in the sport, but when you get there, you're going to get tested. So if you've been taking steroids all the way up and then you get there, now you have to come off them, it's going to be counterproductive anyway, because that's not who you are. That's not going to be your performance. And now you're at the best level and you're not going to be performing the way you thought you could.
I think
so, it's quite pointless. My gym in particular, there's absolute zero tolerance on that sort of thing.
I think in MMA it would be obvious if someone was on steroids, because they just look. Most MMA fighters seem really athletic, you know, not nicely muscular, which I think is, you know, good way to be. They're not just bloated.
Yeah, I think, mate, as well. I think like you touched on earlier about steroids and performance enhancing drugs having a negative effect on people's minds, and from what I've seen over the years is that everyone who takes that sort of thing, yeah, they get big quick and they feel good and they're all really aggressive and stuff, but then a few months down the line they start to crash. You know, the natural production of testosterone and these hormones that keep us stable plummets and goes down, and then all the problems start occurring. So I think as an MMA fighter, that's a dangerous game to play, because your mindset and the mental game is just as big as the physical game. And if you've taken something to enhance your physical performance, but it's putting a negative effect on your mental performance, to me, it's insanity. Yeah. Plus, mate, just life in general. You know, if you're not going to have a happy life if you're taking that shit, you know, you're not going to have a happy life. You are going to feel low on testosterone, depressed, unsure, uncertain of yourself. And uncertain of yourself is a big one as well. And I think just your general everyday today life's going to be affected by that sort of stuff. So for me, if an MMA fighter's using steroids or performance enhancing drugs, it's a bit of a, I don't know, it's not something that I think makes a lot of sense personally.
So let's go back to your military career then, because then we can build up to your fighting, which is I'm fascinated to hear about that. You're the first person I've really met, other than my friend the poet SB Howarth, he's done a bit of he does the jiu-jitsu and the Krav Maga and all this kind of stuff. I think he joined one of these courses where you do a certain amount of training, then you go in the cage. I don't know. I won't pretend.
Yeah, well, we actually run a similar program called Wimp to Warrior. It started over in Australia by a gentleman called Richie Cranny. Richie, hello. And it's now a worldwide organisation, Wimp to Warrior. And it's a very similar thing where people come up with no experience and we train them for a certain amount of time and then they fight. The difference with Wimp to Warrior, again, rather than most of the other organisations that I've seen, you know, there might be others out there that are better. But with Wimp to Warrior, it's not a case of just a quick 6-week training camp. It's 6 months training camp with Wimp to Warrior. They come to train with us at 6 a.m, 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, for an hour and a half. And we do MMA every single day, 5 days a week for 6 months. They also do strength and conditioning on top of that, and they're coming in doing pads. So these guys come from no experience whatsoever, and they go for 6 months in a constant training camp, non-stop. I'm talking strength and conditioning 3 days a week, jiu-jitsu 2 days a week, striking, sparring. It's a full pro. You've got a nutritionalist. And then when we put the fight night on, you know, at the end of it, it's like 1,000-seater. It's a big deal, big show. We try and make them feel like professional fighters. You know, we make sure that they get that full. They've put the work in. They've had the full professional training camp, and on fight night we make sure they have the full professional fight night feeling. But Wimp to Warrior program particularly it's not about winning and losing, although, you know, on fight night everybody wants to win. It's more about the journey and the fact that people come from having no experience whatsoever. And most of the people who come, maybe they've suffered from anxiety, or they want to change their life in a certain way, or they've got some certain habits they want to get out to, or they just need a little bit of guidance or leadership. Most of the people who come to it with some kind of reason that you know, a reason. They don't just do it because they fancy doing it. They do it because they've got an actual specific purpose. And I really love it. I really love the program. It's fascinating. We've had a 53-year-old woman and a 54-year-old man compete on it. So, you know, pretty amazing to say they came from scratch, and then 6 months later they fought in front of 1,000 people.
It's really funny you say that, because I'm 50 now, and like I don't think of that as like old.
yeah, exactly.
You know,
yeah.
I mean, I did 4 Ironmen for my 50th birthday. You know, 4 Ironmen like at the same time.
What?
Yeah, so sorry to the people listening. I know it always sounds like I'm blowing my own trumpet. I probably am a bit, but
that's insane, mate.
It's more that I just want people to know, you know, you've got to throw off life's conditioning and life's shackles. Otherwise, you're never going to live your dream. So having come last in my first ever triathlon, I decided 8 weeks later to do a quadruple Ironman. So I swam 9 miles, it was a quadruple Ironman distance triathlon because I didn't swim in the sea because I couldn't get boat cover. So I did it in a saltwater outdoor swimming pool. Very cold.
Yeah, but
So it's a 9-mile swim, 450-mile bike ride, and then a 108-mile non-stop run.
Jesus, that is insane.
Well, it is when you think the 30-miler is pretty ninja.
Yeah.
So like, I just wanted to show, like, it's up, you know, the only barriers are in your mind, and age is obviously not a barrier because I find things easier now than I did when I was a commando, you know, a lot easier because my mind's in a different place, which it should be after 30 years, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. You've got that experience under your belt. Why not use it? You know, one of my favourite quotes is by Bruce Lee. He says, "Knowing is not enough, we must apply." So, you know what I mean? If you've got that 30 years of experience under your belt, what's the point in it if you're not going to apply it to something? You know, and you've clearly done that with the marathon, or with the 4 marathons.
I'd love to hear Bruce Lee say that in a northern accent. That'd be spot on. I'm just trying to ping your accent.
Rochdale.
Okay. How far is Rochdale from Manchester, roughly?
It's just on the outskirts of the M60, so it's 3 miles to the city centre, maybe 4 miles.
Okay. Do you remember Lisa Stansfield? Is that a name that?
Yeah, she's from Rochdale.
Yeah, because back in the day, everyone used to ping her as Manchester, and she'd say, "I'm Lisa Stansfield from Rochdale."
Just like that.
That's not the Rochdale accent, but no, I was trying to ping it because you sound a bit like my friend Lee, and also Peter Kay. Do you get told that a lot?
But yeah, I think he's from Bolton, isn't it? So that's a little bit more Lancashire way, you know. But yeah, it's similar. It's not far.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, let's go back to you joining up then. How was Lympstone?
Disgusting.
Full of shandy drinking southerners.
Yeah, no, man. I think your first day at Lympstone for anybody is a huge culture shock. You go down there with all these expectations, don't you? You've watched all you've read all the glossy magazines about Royal Marine Commandos and what you're going to do in basic training, how awesome you're going to be and how much of a badass you're going to be and all the hard training you're going to learn. But you just don't expect when you get down there it to be. I suppose it's the same as anything, right? You see what people see is the achievement. Don't you see the Green Beret? You see the steely-eyed killer with a gun in his hand who can run 30 miles and all that. But you don't see all the shit that it's took him to get there, you know. And I think that's the thing with Lympstone. You get there with all these ideas about how cool you're going to be and how good marine training is going to be. You get there and you realise it's 99% grind and, you know, getting shouted at and physically and mentally draining until you've done it, until you're looking back on it and you're thinking, Jesus, I actually did that. You know,
mate,
culture shock.
There's no shouting anymore. I was up there not long back. They don't shout anymore. It's quite an eye opener. But we went there for our 30-year reunion, you know, and we stood there watching the bottom field, and it's like the lads are finishing their fireman's carry and then they're all hugging, which I'm all for that. I think it's great. But in my day, if you turn around and hugged your oppo, they'd think something was wrong with you, you know?
Yeah, you'd probably get winded, wouldn't you?
and the PTI is kind of like, okay, fellas, right, next we're going to climb the rope. In my day, it's, right, fellas, 30 foot. Yeah, it was all like, but for people listening or watching, it was never it was very rarely like abusive shouting, just for the
No,
sake.
yeah.
Not what I mean, it was never this. To me, that was more like the army that got shouted at all the time, just shouted at like you're like you're a piece of shit. And in the Marines, it was a bit more sort of respectful until they had to pretend you'd done something wrong, or they had to find something you'd done wrong so they could beast you. And then they put on the shouting, but a lot of it was just I like to think a lot of it was a game, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, from my experience as a PTI, is you do with different recruit troops, you try and find the best way of communicating with that troop and the best way of what they respond to. Now, obviously, we're training for the military. We're training recruits to go to war. We're not training. We're not just going to the gym to get fit and lose weight and post pictures on Instagram. You know, we're training young men to go, essentially, to fly halfway across the world and kill people. That's what you're training for, you know, as breaking it down. So there is always going to be that aspect where you need that physical and mental robustness where you can be screamed and shouted at without taking it personally. Because when we scream and shout as a PTI, we're just trying to enforce a sense of urgency. That's all we're trying to do, you know, trying to get people to do things that they don't fit, you know. When you're telling someone to climb a 30-foot rope with 30 pounds on the back and they're already physically exhausted and it's pouring down with rain and the wind's blowing the rope sideways and they're looking up thinking, I'm going to die on that thing. They don't want to climb that. So you've got to find the words and you've got to find the tone of voice. And you've just got to find a connection with them that'll actually make them want to do that and respond.
Did you make any of the recruits climb the ropes without using their legs with the kit on?
Yeah, I mean, we do different methods with different people depending on whereabouts or what would benefit them the most in training. You'd have some absolute beasts that you can send up the ropes with kit and just arms only rope climbs. But then you'll get some younger recruits, or maybe they're a bit weaker, and there's no point trying to get them to do it because they physically can't do it. And they're going to get an easy training session out of it because if they can't do it, they can't do it. You know, so other times I think you've got to be creative in thinking of, right, how can I make this guy, you know, how can I give him something that A, is going to benefit and make him fitter, B, is going to make him, like, reach the standards that we require, but C, I need to see this guy put some work in, man. I need to really fucking see this guy bite, you know, grit down on his teeth and see what he's made of. So it's a creative it's a sadistic creative process.
It's just funny you say beast because when we're in training, the PTI says, right, we went up the ropes in full kit and rifle. They said, right, up with no legs. So that's just your arms. And about 4 of us managed to do it.
Yeah.
Then we got down, he went, right, who can go again? So I think there was probably just 2 of us then could go up it.
Yeah.
So I think beast is that's the word I'd use for myself.
Yeah.
I never thought myself as a beast in training. I thought I just sort of scraped through on everything.
Yeah. Apart from the rope climbs.
Yeah. Well, I did get PT superior, but I'm not good at taking praise. I just think it's people being nice and like I don't really deserve it. So I don't really, you know, it's kind of a bit of a character trait.
I'm quite similar with that. Like, I'm not good I can't accept presents. If someone gives me a present, I'm just like, I'm the most awkward present receiver ever. I love giving people presents, but I'm terrible. Or receiving, what's the word? Compliments of people. I'm just like, yeah, nice one. Let's move on, you know. Because for me, as well, again, going off on a tangent, but on them kind of things, like when people are giving you compliments, maybe, I'm more interested in the process than the result. You know, so if someone gives me a pat on the back for like winning a fight, I find it hard to accept because I'm not really interested in the result. What interests me is the journey on the way, the work that's been put in, like we were talking about earlier, not the peak of the iceberg, all the stuff that's sitting underwater. That's what, if someone came to me and said, you know what, Stapes, I've seen you training for the last 6 months and this, that and the other, then I'd be like, oh, thanks, man. But I can't really accept praise for achievements. Do you get what I'm saying there?
Yeah, massively.
The thing
Hey,
that,
do you want to know an interesting thing? It's like,
well, it's interesting, yeah.
Well, it's my interesting, so it's probably quite freaking boring. But like,
don't worry, if it's boring, I'll give it the old boot neck. Boring.
Well, I've just started taekwondo.
All right. Brilliant.
Yeah. Well, it's a slight exaggeration. It's like my son has started it, but I do go and watch him, so I'm kind of, training my mind first,
Yeah, right, okay. Get on the mats.
It's really great. I said to my partner when our lad was just a baby, I want him to start training as soon as he's allowed, which was 4, because I want him to be able to go through school and not get bullied.
Yeah.
And I've seen what happens to people that get bullied. You meet them as adults and they're still traumatized by it. It still controls their thinking, the way they feel about themselves, their self-confidence and all this. And and I wanted him to. I did a bit of judo, you see, in comprehensive.
Great sport.
And I was a stroppy guy anyway. If you not unwantedly, but if you tried to pick on me, I'd let it go a little bit, and I'd let it go a bit more, and then the third time, I'd just lash out, and that was my saving grace, really, because I was quite small. I was from a broken home, and those kind of characters tend to be the ones that get picked on, right? So I was like that, but then I did a bit of judo, and blimmin' hell, I only did a year, but you can't help. It's so easy to take someone off balance if you just knew, a bit of Uchimata. And
judo's a fantastic sport. It's a brilliant sport, especially for kids. One of the things I like about judo for kids is the core strength and the I've lost what the word is now. Like the balance and coordination aspect of it. It takes a lot of coordination to be able to turn your back and throw somebody. A lot of timing, and I think those are skills that if you get your kids into it, they can transfer them skills to any sport. Then I think judo, wrestling, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, all them grappling arts, I think they're amazing for kids. My son Jensen, he does Brazilian jiu-jitsu with me. We train twice a week. We have about 50 kids on the program, and I absolutely love teaching them. Man, you see week to week progress, and even if the progress is minuscule, I just love teaching them kids them martial arts, man. It's just a great, like you say, it's a great thing for them mentally to be able to have the confidence to go anywhere they want in life and not be afraid. But physically as well, just those little things that they can then apply on in other sports. Yeah, I love it, man.
So yeah, I'm as much as I am full of admiration for anyone doing a kind of MMA or whatever it is, Krav Maga, Jiu-Jitsu. The thing with me is I love my running so much.
Yeah.
I'm not out like all the time, but when I do run, I love it. And I've obviously, I ran the length of the country, so it's just a great thing in my life, and it always has been like a leveler. And
what for you? Do you run more to? Obviously, you're getting fit while you run, but do you do it more for like a clear your mind and that sort of thing, or do you do it more for the fitness benefits?
I just do it because.
Just do it.
I never, other than taking drugs, which obviously is something I've worked a lot of my life to put behind me, to put the addiction behind me. It's the only thing that makes me feel like really like me, good. I'm not saying I feel bad about it. It's nothing like that. It's
no, I
like,
understand.
it's like life. You sort of cruise on through, you do your thing, you try and stay happy and da-da-da-da. But then the odd thing, like surfing is another thing. It's just so good, you know. It's just so good. And the running, you know, you put your headphones on, the sun, you take your shirt off because the sun's beating down, and you just run, and that sense of satisfaction when you finish, and all the chemicals in your brain are flowing around.
Again, that's kind of what we were talking about twice now, about the process of things, the journey of things, rather than the achievement. That what you're enjoying there on that run is what you've done. It's do you get what I mean? It's not that you've ran 3 miles and ticked it off. It's every footstep that you've enjoyed, isn't it? It's every deep breath that you've enjoyed. It's that exhaustion at the end of it that's the thing that you're searching for. You're not searching for 10 miles done, ticking box. You're searching for that whole thing. Which that's what martial arts is to me. That's what martial arts. When I'm on the mats, when I'm doing jiu-jitsu, grappling, wrestling, MMA, whatever it is, and when I'm coaching, that's when I feel like that's when I feel that my personality is at its best, or I'm able to be me the most, you know, because that's what I love doing. You shut me in a room and tell me to grapple for six weeks during isolation, we won't have a 10-minute break. I just love it, you know what I
mean? Brilliant. I love it when I meet people that love what they do. It's you know, it took me a long time in life to find something that I was good at and that I liked doing. It kind of started with my writing. You know, having a job is just that's just not for me. Not you know, I just being told what to do by someone who's just not, who's seen like that much of the world when you've been around the whole.
I think that's when I left the Marines as well. I actually said to myself, I'm never going to have a job with someone someone's my boss. That's never going to happen. I'm always going to be my own boss. I'm always going to find my own way. And like you say, that's a big part of it, is that getting told by someone who's seen this much of the world but has got a couple of certificates in their hand what to do. And I'm thinking, it's just not me. I couldn't do that. I think
it's not that for people listening, it's not that you can't be a good boss with a certificate. It's not about that. It's just it's the way that modern workplace is set up. It sets everybody up to be a little Hitler and a little creep and a little backstabber. It's the pressure, you know. Your boss will go, I'm only following the rules. Well, if everybody says that it's just a shit show then, isn't it, you know?
Well, also, I'm a big fan of like lifestyle design. So like designing your lifestyle to look like it wants. Most people just focus on getting a job, and then whatever that job is, they kind of, all right, it's 9 to 5. They mold their lifestyle around the job, and then they hate the job. So then, therefore, they must hate a lot of aspects of their lifestyle. I try and look at it the opposite way. I try and look at my lifestyle, how I want my life to look, who I want to spend the time with, what I want to do day to day, and then build what I do in that day around that. You know, I can't even use the word job when I'm describing it, because it's not a job. It's just what I do. You know, if people say to me, "What do you do for a job?" I don't really have a job. I live my life for martial arts, and that's it. You know.
Yeah. When you can hop out of bed at 4 or 5 in the morning every single morning of the year, including Christmas Day, that's when you know you love what you do, isn't it? It's just that simple. Yeah. It's that simple. The thing I was going to say is, as much as I'd love to get into martial arts, because it's quite a cool hobby, right? Sport. I ripped both the cartilages in my knees doing it. What's it called? The bit in your side of your knee, the meniscus.
Meniscus. Yeah.
I was mucking around with, well, not mucking around. I was fighting with my good friend, SP Howarth, and we were on a stag do, and we'd had a few beers, right? Which is a stupid time to do anything like that.
Wait a minute. A minute ago, you said you were doing martial arts. This has just turned into a drunken pub brawl.
Well, in fairness, it's my boy is doing the taekwondo, right? But we were kneeling, facing each other, and he went, "Go!" like that. and I wasn't even going to try. I'm a bit like I did all that 30 years ago. You know, I'm not. And in that moment, he just grabbed me and pushed me backwards. Both my knees tore.
Nightmare.
And everyone was telling me, Chris, you need operation. You know, they will never heal. But what they do is that the surgeon will grind down the rough bits and it will take the pain away. Well, no, they healed. You know, I stick to my alkaline, mainly plant-based diet. I, you know, think positively. I exercise when I can, and yeah, I ran 108 miles
on two broken meniscus.
And I've been, and now they don't even hurt at all, you know. So just point that out to people, because we're always told we got to go to the doctor and it's got to be medicine and it's got to be hospital and operation, and I think a lot of it, if you bide your time and you just treat yourself right, it's not necessary.
Well, mate, I'm a big believer in that myself. I try not to take any medicines or any medications if I can get away with it. I think medicating a problem should always be the last option. We you know, a lot of people have got mental health issues as well that are getting medication thrown at them left, right, and centre. I'm not a doctor, mate, you know, believe it or not, but I just don't believe in that. I believe in, I think that's masking a problem, putting a plaster over a problem. I think you got to look a lot deeper and fix the root of the problem rather than put a plaster over it. So,
mate, you don't have to be a doctor these days. I'll tell you why, because they don't have the answers. But people like you and I can go on the internet because we care about ourselves, we care about life, we care about the people that we're training or we're life coaching. And your job is, you know, as much a life coach, isn't it, as a fighter? And,
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And we can find that information. Much of it comes from like Eastern philosophy, because those guys have been doing this for thousands of years. They don't go to doctors and GPs and get their 15-minute in a surgery, right? So I don't think we have to make any apologies. Doctors have been trained in a certain way. They're some of them are magnificent.
But we obviously need doctors. We I mean, especially what's going on right now. We need the NHS. We need doctors. But I believe that should be the last protocol rather than the first protocol. Most people, or a lot of people, get ill with whatever illness it may be, and the first thing is to call a doctor. For me, you should be living a healthy lifestyle before any of that. You know, trying to stay fit, trying to stay healthy. Don't mean you have to go to the gym and beast yourself every day, but just live healthy, live a healthy lifestyle. Try and stay fit. Try and practice things that help your mind state. Those things should be going on all the time. I think contacting a doctor should always be the last resort rather than the first resort, and that's the only problem with it. There's some doctors are amazing. You know, they've done 7 years of training to be a doctor and they've got amazing knowledge. I think we should use them as a last resort and not kind of overcrowd them with stuff that we could be dealing with just by living a better lifestyle, a healthier lifestyle.
Tell me, what Commando test was your nemesis, or did you breeze them?
No, I didn't breeze. I found them all. I was one of them that I started basic training. I was 17, so I was kind of the second half of the pack. And then as the weeks went by, I got fitter and fitter and fitter, and I climbed towards like the top of the pack. So maybe I was in the top 4 or 5 fittest. And then because of my age and everything, and then I just hit that peak and started. By the time I hit Commando tests, my body was in bits. So I'd say I struggled on all the Commando. I passed them all the first time, but I struggled on all of them. For one that I would say was my nemesis would be the endurance course. Every time I finished it, my ankles, knees, hips, lower back were in agony. I'd have no skin left on my elbows and knees, no toenails left. That for me was disgusting. And then when I decided to be a PTI, you end up doing it every Friday as part of your training for like the last 7 weeks or whatever it is. It's like, why did I do this?
Really?
You know?
In full?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do it every Friday, from about week 10 onwards on the PT2s course. Well, we did anyway. Different courses will do different things, but yeah, every Friday. Beautiful.
God,
Just to give you what to think about on the drive home.
Well, you definitely earn a beer then, don't you? Bloody hell.
Yeah.
And so, Commander unit?
So when I passed out of basic training, I went to 4-2 Commando in Plymouth, for those that don't know. Spent about 4 years at 4-2 Commando. Went to Northern Ireland with them, went to America with them a couple of times. I was on the 2003 invasion of Iraq with them company, 4-2 Commando. Great unit, absolutely brilliant unit, loved it there. Then I moved on to 40 Commando because we came back off leave and 40 Commando were going back out to Iraq and they needed volunteers. So stuck my hand up, went over to 40 Commando, Iraq with them, did another Norway tour with them, Senegal, did a lot of stuff at 40 Commando. Then it was my PTI's course, passed the PTI's course, took a couple of recruits through training and SFSG straight after that. So.
And when you were in Iraq, were you on the Al-Far Peninsula?
The Al-Far, yeah. Well, I was on the I was with them company on the initial invasion of the Al-Far Peninsula on day one. Yeah.
I don't want to say the guy's name in a podcast, but if I just say Pete was a corporal, got a very high gallantry medal. I just wondered if you knew.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It was at Oppo of mine back in the, well, still is an Oppo of mine, but you know, we were in the same unit back in the day.
Yeah, excellent, nice one.
Yeah, that was.
So would he have been at 4-2 Commando then?
He might actually have been 40 by then. I don't think he ever went up to Scotland. We were 4-2 back in the day, so maybe he might have been with 40. I'm not sure.
Nice. So what years would you have been at 4-2?
Oh, I was there in 89 till 91.
Wow, old school.
Yeah. Well,
I was still in school.
Say again.
I was still in school.
Yeah, well, I mean, mate, I should have been. I mean, I wasn't. I don't think I've ever grown up. You know, it seems like yesterday. The funny thing is, when I do podcasts with people my age, they can't remember anything. It's quite funny. I'm like, tell us about the Commando test. They're like, I don't really remember them, Chris, to be honest. I'm like, really? I remember it like it was yesterday. You know, I got this kind of imprinted on my mind, really.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I'm quite good with recalling stories and memories and conversations I've had with people, which is it's a good thing in one way because I can recall things pretty well and my memory's good like that. It's a bad thing in another way though, because when I think back of my time in basic training, the Marines, I still get them butterflies and nerves in my belly when I'm thinking about waking up in the mornings or thinking about being on the line ready for PT or on your spots in the gym. It still gives me them butterflies.
Yeah, I remember that. BFT blues and all that sort of stuff. God. So, did you say Afghanistan as well?
Yeah.
And who did you go with? Did you go there with SFSG?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
But can we talk about that? Because I think people find
I mean, yeah, obviously, there may be some subjects I've got to steer away from, but yeah.
What, like when you wore women's clothes?
Yeah, when I was wearing high heels out in the desert.
Only Marines get what we're going on about. Oh, and a few attached ranks, but yeah. So where they're based in Wales, I think we're allowed to say that because that's in the public sphere.
Yeah, it's down in Wales. Yeah.
There's no selection. There's a sort of small selection, is it?
Yeah. That's one of the things I don't really think I should speak about, to be honest, because I don't really know what's going on currently, and I don't know the current climate of what their OPSEC is like. So, or that's operational security for people.
Yeah. We can
so
avoid that.
I wouldn't really like to talk about what that kind of thing. But I joined the unit in 2009. And it was straight into beat up training for Afghanistan. So it was brilliant. It was straight down there. We went straight out to Oman for about 5 weeks doing some mobility training over in the desert and in the mountains in Oman. Back from there, straight on a few Gucci courses with a few of the other units that that I've not worked with before. Got to learn a lot of skills that you wouldn't usually get to learn in the normal military or whatever you call it. And then it was straight out to Afghanistan. I've been at the unit about 9 months, I think, 10 months when we went to Afghanistan, maybe a year tops. Great unit, absolutely brilliant unit. The amalgamation of the Royal Marines and paras at that unit, while some people, before you go there, think it's going to be like us against them, it's just not at all. I found it, all the paras that were there and all the Marines that were there were equally as professional. Everyone was just a big gang of alpha males. Everyone wants to be the best soldier they can be. You know, there's no one hiding in the background trying to get away with doing the minimal they can do. Everyone was a professional soldier. I thought it was a great unit. Yeah, I loved every minute of it there.
And how was it then going on an operational tour of Afghanistan? Because well, let's just you know Josh Pelland, who I spoke to just the other day. Very, very nice man. He just said, when I said, can you tell us about a firefight? He was like, which one? There was hundreds. Is it like, is it full on, or was it full on, should I say?
So I think I was quite lucky, right? Because I joined, obviously, when I joined in 2000, we went into Iraq in 2003. So I think I was only still 19 or maybe just turned 20 when we went to Iraq. So I've been exposed to war and war zones from being a teenager, really. Whereas a lot of people, I suppose, if they were later on in their careers or whatever, and they went to Afghanistan, it might have been like a big, again, a culture shock to them. But I had that experience from before, and then I went back to Iraq after then. I went on a few other operations as well. So when I was going to Afghanistan, it wasn't a huge culture shock to me. I'd already been and seen plenty of war zones. But Afghanistan was different, much different. It was the threat of IEDs is that are developed by the time I was getting there. It was pretty frightening, pretty scary. The firefights you can deal with, firefights, you train for firefights that without sounding like a warmonger or something. That's what you actually want when you go to, as a young Marine, you want to go to war and get in a firefight. You want to do what you've trained for. You want that. I don't think that's the hardest part to deal with. I think the hardest part to deal with is the IED threat, the never knowing where your enemy is, because it's a 3D or 360-degree battle space nowadays. Nowadays, you can't tell if the man down the road is the enemy or friendly forces, or until you get there and speak to him. One of the biggest things for me was obviously missing my family whilst I was over there, and not knowing if you're going to get home to see him again, because my son was born when I had 7 weeks left in Afghanistan, and I actually got home to see him be born and then went back, and those last 7 weeks was like, I'm wondering, am I going to see him again? Am I going to see my daughter again? My daughter was like 4 at the time. Those were the things that were on my mind more than anything else. Firefights were.
It's a huge. I get asked quite a lot by people, Chris, I've had, you know, I've got a baby, or I've got this, or my girlfriend's pregnant. Should I join the Marines? And I'm like, you want the honest answer? I said, well, did you have a dad? Yeah. Did you want him away 9 months of the year? And they were like, oh, right, yeah. It's, can you imagine if you'd got blown up and your unborn baby, or your just born baby, is now, and he's never going to know you, you know? It's,
no.
I'm not trying to.
I think there's a playoff, isn't there? I definitely think, like, being in the military, or especially the Marines, is kind of a young man's game. You know, the younger you are, the easier it is, because the less commitments you've got, that kind of thing. I also think there's a playoff, because being away from your kids like that is obviously something that you're gonna that it's a struggle. It's hard being away from your kids. You've got to put a lot of effort in to make sure you come home and see them as much as you can. Like, I'd be home every single weekend. I'd never spend a weekend on camp drinking or out with the lads. I'd always come home for the weekend, see my wife and kids. But also, it kind of, that time that I missed my kids, and that time that I spent away from my family and stuff, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be who we wouldn't be speaking now. You know, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be who I am, and I wouldn't be able to teach them the things that I'm trying to teach them.
Sure.
I wouldn't be able to raise them in the way I'm raising them. So it is a catch-22. I think you've got to put a lot of effort in to make sure the negative effects don't get, you know, too much, and a lot of effort on the positive effects are as much as you can use them for.
It's a real tough one to make such a selfless decision like that, because I'm kind of in that boat in my mind now, because I'd always wanted a crack at Everest, you know?
Yeah, mate, same.
You know,
I want to do this. I actually spoke to Middleton about it recently, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we'll come on to that. But it's like, because I'm getting, you know, I've got a bit of an adventuring profile. I'm starting to meet a lot of people that have been climbers, or they've been up. In fact, I had Kathy O'Dowd on the podcast. She's the first woman to summit Everest twice. And very, yeah. And what am I trying to say? I guess what the point I'm alluding to is, if I got offered the chance,
Yeah,
or if I could fundraise the money, would I go, having a young child now? You know, it's that. Could I live with saying, no, that it's not about me anymore, it's about my kid? Or do we still have to do some of these things we feel we need to do?
I feel quite strongly about that. For me, and I'm not saying everyone needs to agree with me on this, by the way, because I know a lot of people won't, but for me, I don't want my kids to ever be scared of doing something, trying something, or having a new experience. So for me, if I want to keep doing experience, I want to keep going out and having adventures and all that, not just for me to grow my personal experience, but because I want to set an example for them that you should get out there and you should try. I feel like if I was to sit back now and say, "Oh no, I'm not trying anything new. I'm not going to risk failing at something, or I'm not going to go and take this risk or whatever." I don't like the message that I'd be sending to my kids, because I want them to go out and see the world. I want them to experience the world. I want them to take risks, and I want them to, you know, go and find themselves, experience this massive planet we live on. So that there is obviously an aspect you've got to have a little bit of intelligence about it, and, like, you know, if am I going to go up Everest, right? Make sure it's with a reputable company. I've done all my training, my preparation, and all that stuff's in the place.
It's just that. It's just.
I don't want to die up there, but
it's just that thing, though. Is to statistically, death up there is quite high.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got hit by a falling ice or avalanche, or you fell, or you just got some high altitude illness and couldn't get down, I'm then thinking of my little boy. His daddy's gone.
Yeah.
And why has his daddy gone? Well, I don't want to say ego, because I don't know how much of it is ego and how much of it is, no, it's on my bucket list and I really want, you know, I mean,
for me personally, things like that it's all about the advent or the experience for me. The things like that, like I was saying earlier, I'm not really interested in achievements as such. I did a podcast a while back with it's called the Gentleman Badass podcast, and it's about that. It's about people who are trying to live a family life, be a gentleman and stuff, but at the same time go and do badass things. And we were talking about this kind of thing on there. How do I explain? So when I first started opening the gym, that's all I was thinking about, is I want a fight team, I want champions, I want to build winners and this. I was thinking all about the achievement aspects of it at the start. And then the longer the gym's been going, and the more I've got to know myself and the people around me, and I've delved deep into my own mind state and what my own purpose is, I'm not really interested in those things anymore. They're great when they happen. It's brilliant when you get someone to a level where they can win a fight and they come home with a British title or whatever. And obviously that's what we are there for, essentially. But what I'm more interested in, what drives me, is the process of getting there, taking someone from never knowing anything to getting them up to be a British champion or that kind of thing. And it's the same with this sort of stuff. If I was to go up Everest again, it wouldn't be anything to me. It wouldn't be. It's not about the achievement or about being able to say I peaked Everest. It's about the challenge. It's about the experience I've learned along the way. Can you imagine the amount of experiences you'd have on the way up Everest? Can you imagine the minute by minute experiences you'd be having? That's what it'd be about for me. So it wouldn't. I want to. There's a lot of adventure things I want to do. I try and do stuff like, as much adventure stuff as I can at the moment. There's a lot more I want to do, but it's really not about the ego or even the achievement. It's really about the experience and, as it says, the adventure. Yeah.
Yeah. If you let your ego control your life, you're on a very dodgy. Well, you're going to be unhappy, basically.
But I think using what we do, mixed martial arts, as an example, is a perfect example, because you get a lot of young guys who want to do mixed martial arts because of ego, because they see cage fighting on TV and they see that, them guys must be tough or whatever. And you'll get a lot of people who do it for the ego, because they want to be known as a cage fighter, tough guy, this, that, and the other. Those guys don't last. They never get any. It's never those guys that go far in the sport. It's the people that just love every minute of it. They love every little experience. They're enjoying training. They're there for the experience. They're not there for the gold medal at the end. It's those guys that get better. The guys who are in it for ego, they never get any good. They never go far in the sport.
Stapes,
I'll be doing a lot of things.
So 50 Cal, that's one of your nicknames. Stapes and 50 Cal. Stapes, obviously, your surname. How did that come around?
Well, so I used to, when I started doing the MMA, I was training with a place called the Quantum Gym. And that was run by three brothers. It was Dave Butlin. Oh, you just lost me. It was Dave Butlin, Ian Butlin, and Andy Butlin. And they're all their nicknames. So Dave was Dave B-52 Butlin, like a B-52 bomber, because he had like a massive right hand. Ian was called Ian M16 Butlin because he was an ex-pro boxer, and his hands were like an M16 machine gun. Then we had Matt 12 gauge Thor. So it was like a bit of a common theme. Like all the fighters from the team had nicknames around firearms for some reason. But then obviously when I joined the team, I was already in the military, and I was actually a 50 cal gunner, and I just got back from Iraq, and it just fitted in, and everyone's like, "Oh, 50 cal." And
what
then
was it like firing that thing then?
Firing the 50 cal. Deafening. Excellent bit of kit. Yeah, I love the 50 cal. Vehicle mounted up on the top of that Wimmick, and you're rocking the vehicle because it's got that much kickback in it. Yeah, great weapon, great bit of kit. So, as long as you get the right ammunition.
For people listening, it's that huge machine gun that you see on the roof of vehicles, and it's 50 cal because it's a 50 caliber bullet that it fires, and it fires lots of them, and it's just pretty ferocious, isn't it?
Yeah.
What will that round can you get armor piercing rounds in normal ones, or is it the same kind of round?
You can actually get API rounds, which is an armor piercing incendiary round. So it'll pierce the armor, and when it's gone through, it kicks white phosphorus out the back. So anything that's sat inside that armor is getting burned to a crisp by white phosphorus, which is always, I've always found amazing, because it's illegal under the Geneva Convention to use white phosphorus to like blow people up with, but it's legal to use in a bullet. I thought it's insane. But it's cool. They're great to fire.
They had some weapons going off in Iraq, didn't they? That nobody even knew what they were. They had they'd find casualties, so Iraqi fighters, and it was like they were dead, but they were perfectly intact.
No, I've not heard about that.
Yeah, there was a rumor that it's some sort of microwave technology that they were testing out over there. It's in a film, actually. It's in a film. Back after just after Iraq, there was a wave of Iraqi films, wasn't there, of stuff going on? There was like a whole load of releases. And just in one of those films, there was just a snippet where the guy's looking at these dead Iraqi, and he's like, and you could see that they were perfectly intact. It was a bit weird, bizarre to say the least, So let's come on to the fighting then. Have we covered Afghanistan enough, do you think, or is there anything else that happened over there that our viewers might find interesting?
I mean, it's a day by day thing. There's things happen every day that are outside of the normal realms of normal reality.
Did anyone get hit while you were over there?
Yeah. We lost one of our team, a lad called Tomo, in an IED blast, which was by far and wide my worst day in the military. And I think a lot of the people in our team would agree on that. His vehicle went over an IED, about 3 vehicles in front of mine, and unfortunately, he never made it. It's not something I really spoke about or really want to get into particular details of, because obviously respect for his family. But what I will say on that is that I think about him all the time, every day, and he'll be in my memory, till the day I leave this planet. Yeah.
You were you were close friends then, I take. I mean, obviously.
Well, Tomo was someone I met at the unit, and I didn't know him before I joined the unit. We met each other there. Obviously, we did all our training together, and then we went to Afghanistan together. And you know what it's like when you're in places like Afghanistan. You might know someone 6 or 7 months, but it's a fucking intense 6 or 7 months. You're relying on them people to keep you alive, and you're doing the same for them. Sometimes it's not about how long you've known someone, is it? It's about
no. It's things vary. I mean, I've met people doing this podcast, and literally in the space of talking for 2 hours, it's like I know them better than many of the people I've known all my life. It's if you connect with someone, that's like immediately you've been on the same journey.
You share together, the experiences you share together, and obviously being in Afghanistan, we share a lot of crazy, wild experiences together. But yeah, he's someone I obviously try and keep his memory going as well. As and when I can, it's always going to be with me. I've actually got a tattoo of a poppy on my shoulder, which is one of them. One of them's for him, and one of them's for another close friend of mine, Mark Birch, who died in Afghanistan as well. I wasn't with Birchie at the time, but
Can you, just not to talk about Tomo, but if you're in a vehicle that's 3 away from an IED, did you feel the shockwave?
No, I didn't feel it. I think I heard. I mean, obviously, I heard it. I saw it. I wouldn't say I felt anything hit our vehicle or anything, but we were going through the desert at quite a decent speed, so it's a rocky environment anyway. Other people might have had an experience where they did feel that sort of thing, but I personally didn't. And straight away, because I was a vehicle commander at the time, I think even if I did feel that, I would have switched off to it and just focused on the task at hand, which was obviously dealing with the IED blast. Yeah, pretty intense day, really. We obviously, for the rest of the day, we got helicopter Kazovacs in and stuff like that, and then we secured the area, and we had to. It's a pretty wild thing, you know, losing someone in a war zone, because you've still got to get up and crack on with what you were doing anyway. You know, so you've just lost a friend or whatever, a teammate, someone who's important to you, and then you've just got to get up and you've got to crack on doing the same job you were just doing, or else you're going to lose more people. You know, yeah. It's a very, very strange kind of experience. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a guy shot dead in a I've never actually stopped to work out how far into our tour it was in Belfast, you know, and he was shot dead, but it was in the first few weeks, you know. And the CO or the company commander gathered us all in and just did his, you know, the speech that you'd obviously expect from a commander, right? You know, let's learn from this, take it on the chin, move on. And as he said, move on, I was like already moved on, you know. It was
yeah.
There was never any kind of, oh my God, the game's changed now. It was not like that. It's
well,
right, you know.
To touch on something we spoke about earlier, I do believe that that's a big thing why people do suffer from like PTSD and mental health issues after like being at war, because while you're there, you don't have time to think about it or dissect it in your brain or try and work it out or piece it together or whatever. You've just, like you say, you've just got to deal with the task at hand, because you're going to have more casualties if you don't. And I think it's then when you come back in the years afterwards that you start piecing things back together and thinking about, you know, and you have the actual time to let it all set in, what's going on. I think that's when people struggle, because for a lot of people, they're not around the same people anymore. Maybe they've left the military or they've moved on to a different unit, so they're not surrounded by the blokes that were there at the time. And then they're trying to like put it back together in rewind, and it might be 3 years on since then, and people struggle with that. It's a crazy thing, man. War teaches you a lot about life, man.
Yeah, and if people have had, just going back to the childhood thing, if you're a traumatized person already, which a lot of us who join the military, it's because you know, the trauma we experienced had a lot to do with it. You know, if you're trying to prove something to someone, whether it's an absent parent or a parent that wasn't there for you, or or the fact you're just a product of a broken home, so you're feeling all this insecurity and stuff, so you want to join the military to prove yourself. Well, you get taken care of in the military, so you haven't got that shit to deal with when you're in the military. When you leave, suddenly you're back, you're that person, you know, you've got all those stresses and stuff that you're trying to make sense of as a civilian, facing the uphill hurdles in Civvy Street. Then, of course, you've got alcohol for sale on every street corner and everybody's doing it. And then, of course, at the same time, you're dealing with these traumatic memories of what you might have seen in conflict, and the whole thing's a recipe for, well, you know, homelessness and suicide, and that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing at the moment, and it's good. You know, we can have chats like this because this is what's, you know, as sad as it is losing people in a war, it's sadder to lose them after the bloody war.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a very sad occurrence. Yeah, I mean, losing people in the war, you kind of expect and you kind of accept as well, don't you? I mean, when you go to war, you don't accept that. You don't accept that you're going to lose one of your mates, but you accept that you might die. You know, I accepted, well, I might not come back from it. I never thought he might, but I thought I might, you know. So you kind of accept that. But when you get back, like you say, yeah, you think it's all done and dusted, and there is a massive issue at the moment with, particularly at the moment with the post-Afghanistan thing. You know, a lot of people who were involved in Afghanistan have come back, and at the moment we're seeing a lot of issues with them. But we're seeing a lot of issues from people that have from well pre-existing Afghanistan as well, even back from as far back as the Falklands and stuff. There's still people struggling for that, so it proves that there's an issue out there, and it's a long-term issue, and it isn't going away. And you know, things need to be done about it if they can be.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn as much as I can about it at the moment. I've just read a really it's here actually. Definitely would recommend this to anyone who's struggling. It's called Attack Panic. This guy, Sean Grant, I'm proud to say he's a friend of mine. He's down there in New Zealand, and his kind of philosophy is talking about stuff don't work. You got to address it from the sort of four main areas that he addresses. The kind of addressing the root cause of most sort of panic, anxiety-based, you know, trauma-based mental health conditions. I won't go into it because I'm still getting my head around it, and I don't want to say the wrong thing, but it's really opened my, you know, he was a long-term sufferer of anxiety and extreme panic attacks, and he was a top policeman, you know. And he said he'd have to go into meetings in a full-on panic attack and hold the meeting without anybody knowing I'm in trauma. Yeah. You know, I'm completely in trauma now and stuff. But yeah, I'm just trying to learn as much as I can about it, because there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There just is. You know, anything that you can learn, you can unlearn, or any mountain you can get over it, and I just want to learn so I can help more people, really. And I do meet a lot of traumatized people. So let's talk about your fight career then. I'm only saying winning just to give our audience an idea of your sort of crowning glories and how much you've achieved, not because I think the winning is anything more than the journey, but can you just recap to tell us what disciplines you've won?
So I've been competing as a professional MMA fighter since I think 2007. So on my way up, I obviously won a couple of British titles on my way up. You know, that kind of local level and regional titles as well. I'd say my two biggest achievements in mixed martial arts would be the 8-man. I won an international tournament called Cage Contenders Tournament, where there was eight men fighting over one night, and obviously to win the competition, you fight 3 fights in one night, and I won that. And then I'd say my other biggest achievement would be winning the BAMA world title, which is was one of the big organisations. They've since sold out to another organisation, but that was one of the biggest organisations around at the time. And I won the world title in 2015. Those have probably been my two biggest achievements, I'd say. As a fighter,
world champion.
As a fighter, those are my biggest achievements. But my biggest achievements in this sport is my students. You know, it's the amount of people I get to coach every day and get to hopefully make them into, or put them in a position where they can achieve much more than I have.
What advice would you give then to anyone who wants to dip their toe in the water, but maybe they're a bit hesitant? Because let's be honest, it's wanting to fight doesn't exactly come natural.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it's a good point that you make, and that is something that I try and make sure everyone understands. I love this sport, right? I love MMA, mixed martial arts. I love it. It's all I do. Now, when we first opened the gym, my idea was to have a fight team. You know, my idea was to have a group of fighters. There'd be 20 of us there. We'd all want to fight. But now, I'm not. I love coaching my fighters. But it's not the fact that they are fighters that makes me like coaching them. It's the fact that they're coachable that makes me love coaching them. It's the fact that they want to learn and they're enjoying it, and that they're driven people, they're dedicated people. Those are the things that make me want to coach them or enjoy coaching them. All I'd say to anyone that wants to get involved in MMA is do it for your reasons, right? So if you want to do MMA to learn to defend yourself, that's fine. You don't have to be a fighter. You know, if you want to come and do MMA just as something to enjoy and meet a new group of people, then do it for that reason. You don't have to be a fighter. You don't have to do it and like tick the boxes of what everyone else expects. Oh, you're doing MMA, right? When's your first fight? You don't have to have a fight. If you want to just do mixed martial arts, and I'd say 70% of the people who come on my classes do martial arts not to be a fighter. They're all the reasons are differently, but maybe only 20 or 30% are actually fighters. So that moves me on to those that do want to be a fighter. If you want to be a fighter, then prepare to dedicate your life to it. It's not going to be a 5-year thing or a 2 or 3 year thing. It's not going to be a 6-week on thing, then have a couple of months off thing. It's going to be a 6 days a week, twice a day, 6 days a week, every week of your life for the next 20-year thing. If you want to truly get as good as you can be, you know, it's not going to be a fast thing. It's going to take a long time. It's going to be a lot of hard work, and you've got to enjoy it. It brings us back to what we were speaking about earlier. You can't be doing it if it's for your ego. You're doing it to be a cage fighter and be a tough guy. That's not a very good reason. That reason or that purpose is not gonna be enough to make you want to spar 5-minute rounds with the toughest guy in the gym every week. You know, if you're truly enjoying it and loving every minute of it, and you're striving for that 1% improvement every day, that's going to be enough to get you doing them 5-minute rounds. That, you know, you're going to want to do them 5-minute rounds. But if you're doing it just to be a tough guy or to get your picture on a poster or whatever, you're not going to want to do them 5-minute rounds when this guy's pinning you down and throwing elbows. It's a different game. All I would say to people is just do it for whatever you want to get out of it. Do it for that, and make sure you love it. Make sure you enjoy it.
And I want to ask you something that I'm interested to hear the answer to. I love to sauna, right? It's one of the greatest things in my life. I do it every single morning without fail, including Sunday. Obviously, I can't do it at the minute because of the lockdown, but that's cool. So why is it that in MMA they think that sweat is losing weight when you'd think losing sweat is dehydration? What's the thing that's going on there?
Right. So you've got two different things. You've got weight loss, and then you've got weight cutting. So let's say I'll just use me as an example. So I fight at 70 kilograms. All right. My normal walking around weight's probably about 82, 83 kilograms. Okay. So the first phase, maybe 8 or 10 weeks, will be to get from 82 or 83 kilos to about 77 kilos. Because that's when I'm about 77, 78, that's when I'm at my peak performance. That's when I'm at my best. But I fight at 70 kilos. So the last aspect of it is what you call the weight cut. So that's when you're just cutting weight over a short term. I know you're only doing it to make the weight on them scales. So maybe the last 3 or 4 days will be strict or very scientific procedure of how much salt intake you're going to have, how much water intake you're going to have, how much carbohydrates, that kind of thing. And the final thing is taking the water out of your body, like you say, through sauna or through hot bathing. Now, when we do that, as you just alluded to, it's not weight loss, it's weight cutting. You're just sucking that water out of your body so that you can get on the scales and you're a bit lighter. As soon as you get off the scales, you're putting that water back into your body. So it's purely a thing about making weight. Now, the next thing people ask is, well, why do you all do it? Why don't you just all fight at your natural weight class? And the thing is with that is, if I go into a fight and I'm fighting at if I was in my peak condition, as fit as I can be, I'd be about 77, 78 kilos. So if I weighed in at 77 or 78 kilos and I fought in that weight class, but the guy who I'm fighting against has cut 10 kilos in water weight, by the time we get back in the cage to fight, he's going to be 10 kilos heavier than me because he'll have put that weight back on by drinking water and rehydrating. So then by the time we compete, I'm going to have a massive weight disadvantage against this skilled opponent. So it's a kind of catch-22. It's because one person does it, we've all got to do it until they find a better method.
Yeah. Have I heard that there's been a push by certain people to scrub round it because they're claiming that it's too much? There's some danger around doing it, or
There's a lot of danger. There's loads of danger in it. Nobody should sit in a sauna and lose 10% of their body weight within 12 hours. Do you know what I mean? That is not a good thing. I've done it myself. I've got in the sauna and lost 6 kilos in the space of, 8 to 10 hours. It's not good. It's disgusting. You feel like you're going to die and you're probably on death's door. Nobody should be doing it. But the problem is, because it's been, you think people of boxing have had the weigh-ins they've done the weigh-ins that way for years, and MMA has been doing it for years. It's kind of a cultural thing. Now wrestling do it. There's a couple of problems. One way to solve the problem is for everyone to weigh in on the day of the competition, of the day of the fight, rather than the day before. But the problem with that is if you miss weight on the day of the fight, you can't have another chance to try and make weight. So there's going to be a lot of promotions that you'd see with a lot of high-profile fights that are worth a lot of money, that then fights and get pulled off the card because people have maybe missed weight. And then the people at home are not going to be happy because they paid pay-per-view money to watch a fight and it's cancelled because someone's not made weight, them kind of things. And then you've got the other issue of at the moment, we weigh in 24 hours before we fight. So you've got 24 hours to rehydrate. So your brain and your body have got some degree where they've been able to, some degree of safety where you're allowed to rehydrate and stuff. Don't get me wrong, it's not safe, but it's at least you've had 24 hours to get them fluids back in. Now, if you weigh in and fight on the same day, the idea is that people won't cut weight; they'll have to just fight at the natural weight. But you'll still get some people that do cut weight and try and cheat the system, and those people will be dehydrating. Then they might only have a couple of hours before they compete, potentially take a hell of a lot of headshots, and they'll be working off a brain that's dehydrated and gone through all that trauma. And I think there'd be a lot of injuries. I've not got an answer to it, if I'm honest. I'm sure there's a lot of people that have, and I'd like to hear them, and I'd like to see someone do something about it. But yeah, there's a lot of questions around that subject at the moment.
Gosh, yeah. And is it, do you get nervous before a fight? Is there a certain routine that you've got? Is there a certain mindset you have to put yourself through?
I think mindset is a constant thing. So I think as a professional fighter, you should be training your mindset in everything you do, every day, every aspect. So walking the dogs, practice your focus, stay off your phone. You know what I mean? I think mindset is a constant thing that you should always be checking yourself on, especially if you want to be a professional fighter. Nerves, you know, and a lot of people ask this: do you get nerves before you fight? Yeah, everyone gets nerves. It's what you do with the nerves that's important. Do you let them overwhelm you and crush you, and then you just freeze and you don't turn up? Or do you accept them nerves, accept that you're going to get them, do you try and put them into a positive light and try and use them? That's always the goal. There's some fights I've had where I've done that to a T, where I've come out of the fight and I've been like, again, I've not even been thinking about the fact that I've won the fight. I've been more happy with how I reacted and the way I performed, the way I dealt with my nerves or the occasion or whatever. There's been other fights where I've not done that anywhere near as well as I would have liked to have done. And that's what the journey is, isn't it? That's what the journey is, you know, trying to become better at performing. Because being good at MMA and being good at performing are two different things. You meet loads of guys who are killers in the gym. They're great at sparring when there's no pressure on them, all that. But then when you put them in a crowd or in a cage in front of a couple of thousand people and it's live streamed and it's on TV and all that, it's a different ball game. It's so much more aspects than performing on the night of competition is a much deeper thing than just being good in the gym and being able to tap a few bodies in the gym. People
say to me, they say, Chris, how, you know, if they're thinking about doing a marathon or their name's down to do a marathon or a ultra marathon, they say, how do I deal with the nerves, right? And I always say, if it's like a marathon, I say, well, you don't have to get nervous till the what's it?
You're not doing it till you're doing it, huh?
I say you don't have to get nervous till the 18th mile, because that's when it gets hard.
Yeah.
I'm being deadly serious.
Yeah.
Starting off on the start line of a marathon or a half marathon or an ultra, it's easy. There's no point being nervous because it's not difficult. It's not. You're literally being nervous.
At that point,
you're being nervous in the days beforehand for nothing, because there's nothing.
Yeah. It's worse than energy.
You know, if you want to be nervous, think about when you get to like mile 21, then yeah, okay, that's hard. But what I mean is, by the time you get there, obviously you're not nervous because you're in the bloody race and it's just about finishing it then. But it's just a good little thing that it's just you know, I'm really lucky. Never been, when it comes to running, which is obviously my thing. I just don't get. I love it. I just can't wait to get on that start line and everyone's lined up and they're smiling and maybe got some music on. And I'm not out there to win or anything. Like, just for me, it's just taking part and stuff.
Well, if you watch MMA or boxing or any of the combat sports, and you watch the body language of people before they start competition, it's always those people that you see that are soaking in the moment, that are enjoying it, that are present in the moment. They're always the ones that seem to do well. And you notice other times you see people that are maybe looking at the crowd and you can see they're getting a bit overwhelmed by it or whatever. They're not enjoying it, they're not embracing it, and they underperform. So yeah, I'd say it's the same sort of thing in fighting. You know, so you don't need to be nervous until you need to be nervous.
Yeah, get nervous when they hit you really hard.
Yeah, good advice.
What's been going on with Conor McGregor then? What's your take on his kind of? It's become a bit of a circus, wasn't it, at one point? But do you get sick of people talking about him? Is it because, you know, that's just like Los Angeles celebrity and?
I mean, look. Conor McGregor has done something for this sport that no one previously or since he's come about has been able to do. He has catapulted this sport into the mainstream like nobody else. And if it wasn't for Conor, I think over the last maybe 3 years, we've seen a big kind of wave in MMA. A lot more people starting mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu. The events becoming a lot more professionally run and a lot better, a lot more interest, a lot more people watching it on TV. And I think a lot of that is due to Conor McGregor, his personality and the way he fights, you know. And then the other thing is, you've got to remember that this guy is, yeah. So Conor's got, he's a double world champion. He's one of the best fighters ever to do it. But behind all that, he's still a young guy, and maybe he's not been lucky enough to do the things that I did before I started MMA. I got 12 years in the military, and I got to experience life around the world. And Conor's come up, as all of us have, you know, or most people have. He's come up from maybe rough beginnings. He's got into the gym. He started training hard, and then all of a sudden, whack! It's in your face. He's the most important, famous man in the world. You know, and I think people forget all that. There's maybe a lot of things that have gone on recently or in the last couple of years that maybe have seemed like a bit of a circus. But this guy, he's still trying to work things out, innit? You know.
Yeah, of course.
Get a couple of £100 million thrown at you and see what it does to you. You know.
I hope it didn't sound like I'm just jumping on the.
No. Sorry.
I'm just genuinely kind of like interested, because obviously, you know, is it like the trappings of celebrity, or the drugs and the alcohol and this kind of stuff gets to a fighter, and like you say, you know, when we're young, we make, you know, we go down these paths that aren't necessarily good for us, but it's all learning, of course.
Yeah, and also there's always times on things don't go in a straight line, do they? You don't start something and you go, right, I've started here, I want to get to it, and it just goes in that line. You start some of them, there's a little drop off, and there's a comeback, and there's a big. And I mean, Conor got to be the double world champion of the UFC, the first person ever in the sport's history to hold 2 titles at one time. And then maybe he had a little bit of a drop off, and these crazy antics were happening afterwards. But I think now he's looking at the way he's communicating with the press and the way he's communicating now. I think he's got back on that track of realising what he wants to do. He looks like he's training purposefully again. He looks like he's training totally. He looks like he's totally dedicated again, and I hope he is, because he's he's a phenomenal athlete, and I think he's got a lot of positive stuff that he can add to the world and to people, and especially the world of MMA, which has been shown. When Conor McGregor first joined the UFC, people were saying, this guy's a breath of fresh air. We just love his honesty. We love the way he talks and stuff. And I think people forget that. And hopefully now that's becoming to come back for him again. I think we're going to see a couple of years of the best of Conor McGregor now. That's why, as a fan of his, that's what I hope to see, yeah.
Can you explain, Stapes, was it the shoulder barge thing on his
last fight?
Yeah.
Well, he was using the shoulder. So he came into a position where he was kind of in a clinch with his opponent, and you'd be shoulder to shoulder. So what Conor was doing was pushing off a little bit with the shoulder, creating space, and then really using the ball in the clavicle to drive it into his opponent's face. It's something you don't often see. And even when you do see it, it's not usually done with the same kind of effect and power as Conor did it. He's got a unique way of generating power that other people just haven't got. He's definitely got his own unique style of generating power. You see it in his left hand all the time when he lands that long left hand. He's got power that people they've not experienced before. And that shoulder barge, that shoulder shot that he was throwing was another good example of that, yeah. Great shot. Great shot.
Stapes, is there anything you'd like to say before we bring this to a close? Is there, your social media links, all this, the name of your club? Yeah,
first of all, thank yourself for the opportunity. Thanks for giving me the call to come on this. I really enjoyed it as well, mate. I've actually really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit and having spin a few dips there. On social media wise, catch us on Facebook or Instagram. We've got SBG Rochdale. It's just at SBG Rochdale. My own is @Stapes50Cal. If anyone wants to get me on the social media for more of the same kind of stuff, martial arts and Marines.
Right, so stay on the line while I just say goodbye to everybody, and then got a couple of things that we can talk about afterward, or I'd like to talk about afterwards. So Stapes, thank you ever so much. You're obviously you're an ambassador, not just to your sport, but also to the Royal Marines.
Thank you.
And you're inspiring people to be the best they can be, isn't it? And that's what life is all about.
I hope so, mate. I'm still trying to do that. So if I can help other people do that, then yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
And I look forward to meeting you, in the flesh as soon as possible. And maybe you can teach me a few moves. But I will warn you, I'm pretty hard.
We'll do a bit.
Pretty hard with my broken knees and my dodgy shoulder, and
we'll get some rounds in.
Yeah, definitely. And to our friends at home, thank you for watching another edition of the Bought the T-Shirt podcast. You guys are really helping me to knock this thing out of the park. So big love to you and your families. Thank you very much. Please, if you could drop us a like on the video and subscribe, that will keep the whole show on the road. Ciao for now.